All right, hello and welcome. I'm super excited to have you with me today. Really excited about today's topic, where we're going to be talking all about how to win with local service ads. And if you've been marketing online for any period of time in your plumbing, HVAC, home service, electrical company, you've seen the shift that's happened over the last couple of years. From it was just all about organic, and then it was all about organic in Google Maps, and kind of figuring out the paid strategy, the retargeting strategy, and then over the last couple of years, Google threw a monkey wrench at us, and they launched local service ads. And for the early adopter that jumped on this and got into the Google Guaranteed program and kind of got their profile set up, got their listing optimized, there was a lot of free money, a lot of easy money to be had. Just put a dollar sign in the comments here if you were able to get in early on local service ads and kind of cash in on some of the low-cost leads, the volume of leads that was available before this became widely adopted by almost everybody in the market. But kind of as things have evolved, Don did really well. As things have evolved, it's become more of a challenge, right? It's been harder to remain in the three-pack, even if you've got a big budget thrown towards this. And it's hard to figure out, like, how do you really win? How do you make sure that you're maximizing your lead flow and your book job flow from local service ads? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. This isn't what local service ads is training. It's how to win with local service ads, how to optimize your profile, how to do the work necessary to tell Google you're the contractor that should be in the top 3 rotation and be getting the lion's share of the leads. Just give me a 1 in the comments if that works, if this sounds like a good agenda and a good plan for today's session. Awesome. Appreciate the comments, appreciate the engagement. I do like to make these sessions as interactive as possible. So, talking about local service ads is really just a part of your overall digital marketing strategy. And really the accelerated growth model that we teach and that we implement for plumbing and HVAC companies is we got to drive leads, we've got to maximize conversion, and then we've got to optimize results. We're going to optimize the ROI, we've got to optimize the campaigns and really double down on the things that are working best. Today's session, we're really going to be focusing over here on the drive leads side of the equation with a heavy emphasis on like local service ads and the paid ads strategy. But if you look at your digital dominance method, really, there's lots of things, right? You got to have a great website that's built to convert. You got to make sure that you're showing up organically. You got to make sure that you're effectively leveraging paid search and you're tapping into these pay-per lead services. You got to make sure that you're, really retargeting and effectively converting the leads that you have. And so this is what we call the digital dominance method, and this is what we roll out for the plumbing, HVAC, home service contractors that we work with. So with that said, I just want to put the magnifying glass right now on local service ads, LSA, Google Guaranteed. And I'm going to ask some kind of ground rules here. I'm going to ask for your attention. If you're really serious about getting the latest and greatest on what's happening with local service ads, and really how you can win in this marketing segment, I'm asking you, turn off your cell phones, you turn off the Facebook if you've got another tab open, and let's just give this our undivided attention for the time being. Catherine says, I refuse to go Google Guaranteed. Okay, well, this might be a tough session for you because that's the main thing that we're going to be talking about. Maybe I can convince you otherwise throughout the course of today's session. Make sure you know it applies for plumbing, HVAC, home services. Really, it's available in almost all the verticals right now. What I'm going to cover, very brief, I'm going to talk about what Google Local Services is, talk about where it's active. I'm going to talk about how it works, and I think that's probably pretty important for you guys. But most importantly, I'm going to talk about how you can jump on board if you haven't, and what it takes to rank in the 3, right? There's 3 rotating listings at the top of the search results, and it's not just about throwing money at it. There's some very specific things we can do to optimize the campaign, that we can optimize our uptime in the 3-pack so that we can get the best results possible. And I'm really going to walk you guys through how you can maximize the output and the throughput with local service ads today. If you don't know me, my name is Josh Nelson. I'm the founder of Plumbing and HVAC SEO. I'm the author of How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. I've been active in marketing for plumbing, HVAC, home services for going on 12 years now. But I think more important than any of that stuff, the reason you want to listen to me is at this point, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies in some of the most competitive markets across the country. And been able to take them from virtual obscurity to the point where they're now the dominant players in their market, many of them seeing millions of dollars of increased revenue over the last decade as a result of really dialing in their internet marketing strategies And so what I share with you isn't based on theory. It's not based on like a blog post that I read somewhere. It's based on real world experience, with home service companies just like yours. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you about LSA is based on, optimizing, running, and really knowing the ins and the outs of these campaigns in the real world. And this is what we do. Plumbing and HVAC SEO, we're a full service digital marketing agency working exclusively with plumbing, HVAC, and electrical contractors across the country. If you'd like to talk with us about maybe how we can work together, if you're a client on with us today, we appreciate your business. If you're a client, just type in client in the comments. I'd love to see you guys and have you here with us. It's what we do, right? And so if, as you're watching this, you're like, hey, look, I'd like you guys to get more involved in our local service ads, or I'd like to have you guys run our marketing or our marketing strategy or run our local service ads, we'd love the opportunity to talk. So let's get into it. What is Google Local Services? Again, this is relatively basic. Like if we run a Google search right now, hopefully you guys can see this, and I'll kind of toggle between my screen and this board. In any market, when we type in San Francisco plumber, Dallas AC repair, we've got the organic results, but at the very top, there's the sponsored section where there's 3 companies and the opportunity to go and see more. And it's kind of tagged with this Google guaranteed checkbox. That's what Google Local Services is, like in a nutshell. You'll see it in a variety of different places. It used to be called Google Home Service Ads. Now it's Google Local Services. And really the bottom line for the way that Google structures this is you're not organically ranking in it. You're not paying on a per click basis. It's really about Google tracked numbers, right? It's like Google puts a number in your Google guaranteed listing. That number is tracked. And then every one of those calls is basically billed for on a per lead basis. And Google gives you this little guaranteed check, which means they're telling the consumer, if you work with one of these companies in our Google Guaranteed program, you can feel confident you're going to get good service and you're going to not get taken advantage of. You're not going to get like your home destroyed. And if you do, we've got your back, right? So Google is really emphasizing this, and they're putting their energy behind really serving these listings above all else. So it shows up at the top. Once you click into one of these listings, you can see some more details about the company. You can check out their reviews. You kind of got the bio section, but the main thing is the number, right? Google has recognized that the main conversion factor for these types of services is a phone call, right? And so they're really driving people to dial the local service ads number so that they can track that and they can really make sure they're delivering a good experience for the end customer. Really, at the end of the day, that's what Google cares most about is when the customer's looking, are they finding what they need? Are they having a good experience? And that's what this is all about. So why does this matter? The reason it matters is because 87% of consumers go to Google when looking for home services, right? They're going to Google 87% of the time. They're not looking at Angie's List. They're not looking on Yellow Pages. That's for sure. The lion's share of your customers, when they're in need of your service, is going to Google and they're running a search. And the number one place your customer looks is Google when they need your services, right? And local service ads is now at the very top. Like this is the first thing that's being prioritized on desktop and mobile. So it's super important. If this is the number one place your customers are looking when they need your services at the very bottom of their buying process, you got to make sure you're coming up. And so there's no higher qualified lead, no higher qualified prospect than the customer that just ran a search for a plumber, for an AC company, for AC installation, than if they just did a Google search. So you've really got to have a plan in place to make sure that you win with local service ads. And Google did a slow roll of this over the last couple of years, and it started in San Francisco, and then it kind of rolled out. It's now active everywhere across the country and in a number of international locations as well. And the way this has impacted the search results is we used to have our paid listings at the top, and then we had our organic listings, and then we had a map. Well, now you've got SEO way down the page. Like this is your organic result. Now, I'm not saying nobody clicks organic. Some people still go way down there and they kind of scroll down. So we want to have a strategy for that. But then we've got a little bit above that. We've got the map listings, and then we've got our pay-per-click listing, Google ads. And then on the very top, we've got Google local service ads. So this is the way it's impacted. It's moved your organic, your free, organic traffic down the page even further. And if we recognize that the lion's share of your customers aren't seeing a Google result on their desktop, right? They're pulling up on their phone. If you run a search on your phone, you'll see it's even further down. Like you have to really scroll to even get to the first organic listing. So it's really, really important that you're paying attention to this. You know, somebody said, I refuse to go Google guaranteed. It's really important that you have a strategy, right? Because if the number one place your customer looks is Google, and the first thing that comes up when they Google search is local service ads, it like seems pretty important that we're coming up in that result. Give me a 1 in the comments if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, we have to make sure we're doing everything we can to show up all the places our customers are looking, especially at the places that are prioritized in the results. So in order to get on, there's an application process. Google does a background check on you and your employees. And this has changed, but it was Pinkerton for a while. Now they've got different consulting companies that'll go in and do the backgrounds. All of your technicians that are going to be in the home serving your local service ad jobs have to be in there, as well as the business owner. And then once approved and activated, you're going to pay on a per lead basis. I asked at the beginning how many of you guys were already playing local service ads, and most of you did. So I'm not spending a lot of time here, but for those of you that don't know, there's a little bit of a background process, right? There's some hoops to hop through in order to even kind of get your name in the hopper and to get that Google guaranteed. What we're seeing is you're paying on average somewhere between $25 and $45 per lead. And in certain markets, it's on a bid basis, kind of like what Google Ads has always been. And this is, I think, going to change over time, right? It went from you're paying a flat dollar per lead that came in to different costs for the various types of services, because Google's starting to get smarter about how valuable is an AC replacement for you versus an AC repair. But then ultimately, I think it's going to probably move to a very aggressive bid-based, like market-driven cost per lead, right? Who's willing to pay the most is going to kind of come up at the top, and that's where it's going to go. So how you're charged for local service ads, basically you set a weekly budget for the total that you're willing to spend on a weekly basis, and then Google takes that, divides it, and then gives you the amount of leads that you get based on your budget. So for instance, if you had a $2,000 per month budget and that was $500 per week, you'd have $71 per day that you can spend on calls, like coming through Google local service ads. Assuming an average cost per lead of $35, which it's different in different markets. It's different for whether you're an HVAC company, plumbing company, or something in between. Basically, you'd have 57 leads per month, 14 per lead per week, and 2 per day. Once your weekly budget is spent, you go offline. So really thinking about your budget and how much you get allocated to Google local service ads is a big part of this equation, right? You want to make sure that you're allocating enough money to make sure that you can spend those funds wisely so that you can get as many of these high quality, low cost leads through the Google Guaranteed program. And you're going to probably get different number of leads day to day, but you're never going to spend more than your designated weekly budget, right? They've built it in that way. It's like, okay, I got $5,000 a month. That gives me whatever that amount is per week. That weekly is going to get spent, and they do throttle it at some level. So I'll talk a little bit about some strategies we found to be effective for budget optimization to keep yourself in the rotation as often and effectively as possible. You do have the ability to dispute non-qualified leads. So Google is only going to charge you if it's a service that you provide based on your profile in your service area. So if it was someone dialing in through there as a solicitation, or if it was somebody dialing in there for something completely off track, you can dispute that and you can get that wiped out. In a nutshell, that's how it works. So solicitations you don't pay for, spam calls like pre-recorded, hey, this is so-and-so calling from XYZ, doesn't get locations that you don't serve, services that you don't offer. Google will gladly discount those costs for you. You just want to make sure you've got somebody in your team or a company like ours that can manage this process for you, listening to the calls, checking the outcomes, and being able to dispute. So you're not wasting a lot of money, especially as this goes to like $35, $45, $75 per lead. You're not wasting money on leads that were in any of these categories. You really want to pay attention to this. You want to focus on it. The feedback we have from our active clients. So we've got some of the top plumbing, HVAC, home service companies in the country that we work with. in some of the most competitive markets across the country. And what we're finding is your average cost per lead right now for local service ads is less than PPC, like less than you used to spend on Google Ads. If you take what your budget was and how many clicks you got and how many calls actually generated from that, your cost per lead is still lower on local service ads. The quality of the lead is significantly greater than Home Advisor. So, typically when you think pay per lead, the stigma is Home Advisor and now Angie, right? And it's like, man, these are garbage leads. It went out to 7 different contractors, and they didn't even answer. It was just a big waste of time and energy. These leads are different, right? Because they're on Google, right? They're actually trying to make a buying decision. They're not trying to shop out with 19 different people. They're probably choosing you, calling you, and if you answer and you respond quickly, you've got a great opportunity. So lead quality is actually very high, and you're always going to get price shoppers, right? With any marketing that you do, there's going to be some portion of the market that's price shopper. And there's some people that might say, well, the person that just clicks on the first listing and didn't do any due diligence or research, didn't go to my website, didn't look at my reviews, may not be the most qualified. So yeah, you're going to get a little bit of price shoppers, but I think the volume and the cost per lead kind of more than makes up for that. And almost unilaterally, all of our clients, if we look at what they spent on local service ads, how many leads they generate, how many jobs were booked, there's a tangible, measurable return on investment from this avenue. So just type ROI if that makes sense. Like, I'm talking about hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies we're working with. The ROI is there. Like, it's just a tangible, measurable return on investment. So I really believe this is a no-brainer. And I'm going to say, if you're not doing it, it's a no-brainer to do it. If you're already on local service ads, I think it's a no-brainer to double down, to expand the budget, to get more aggressive with how you're managing it, and to really put the energy necessary to dial it in. I'm going to share some of the things you can do and some things we can help you with as an agency to generate even better results with your local service ads campaigns. So number one is it's going to put you at the top of the search results, right? I already talked about this a little bit, but let's face it, it's the first thing that comes up. It's a no-brainer. You want to come up in the number one place customers are looking at the number one listing. Like, you want to be on the top as often as you can. You're only paying on a per lead basis. It's actually a better business proposition for you than what Google pay-per-click was in the past, right? You're only paying when there's a qualified lead. And if it's not qualified, it's not legit, you don't pay, right? As long as you're paying attention and you get that in place. Lower cost per lead than PPC, higher quality than Home Advisor, and the ability to modify the budget based on your schedule, right? If you can kind of figure out, like, where are we deficient in our schedule right now, right? We've got our dispatch board. We've got guys that can go out and do plumbing. We've got guys that can go out and do HVAC. We've got technicians that can go to repairs. We can do maintenance. If you can optimize and figure out, okay, where do we have openings in our schedule? If you manage this correctly, you can kind of shift your budget and shift your campaign to prioritize the areas where you need to fill your dispatch board. So hopefully that makes sense, right? Just put in no-brainer in the comments if you can see that playing this game is really a no-brainer. Amazing. Mason says no-brainer. All right, so how do you get set up on local service ads? If you're already a client, which most of you are, we can absolutely help you with this and let us support you. Let us support you in kind of doing the background work, getting your profile set up, getting it optimized. Also, I'm going to be sharing some new things we're doing with local service ads where we can help manage this for you, even at a further level, if you're already a client or somebody that's interested in having us take this and run with for you. But at the most basic level, you can go to adwords.google.com/local services/sign up. And it's a very self-driven process, right? You can add your company name, add your employees, wait for them to do the background checks and get yourself added. And then you got to go in and optimize the profile. There is a self-serve option for this. As agencies, we have ways to streamline this, make it quicker, more efficient, get you online faster. We can kind of have known what some of the potholes are that you're going to face and kind of get you around those a little bit more effectively. But it is something you can do on your own. It's really like 1, 2, 3 step process, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because most of you were already in local service ads, but just wanted to show you what the back end looks like. All right. So let's get to the reason we all came for this session, right? It's not about what local service ads is or even how to get set up because most of us are already doing that. Let's talk about how the ranking works. Let's talk about how to optimize our results in the 3-pack. So just type ranking in the comments if you're excited to get into this part of the presentation while I grab a cup of water and get my throat cleared out. All right. Thanks for the engagement, guys. So what we found, like the number one thing really it's gonna drive your ability to show up in the ranking in the 3-pack, budget not being the issue, is gonna be your proximity to your customer's location, right? Google's looking at where that customer searched on their IP address or on their mobile phone. And if your location is way outside that area, you're probably not going to come up for it, even if you've got your listing set up to cover a wide swath. So this is something you only have so much control of, but it is a big factor in how you rank in the local service ads. Really, really huge as a ranking factor, right? Assuming budget's not an issue, right? Assuming in your market, you and the next guy are putting $20,000 a month towards local service ads. You're telling Google, spend it, right? If you can get me enough of these leads, spend my 20K. And all of you guys were at that level. The next factor is going to be the review score and the number of reviews that you've received. And we're seeing that Google prioritizes your reviews from local services, right? So yes, we're going to look at your Google reviews, your standard Google reviews in this equation, but the reviews you get after a service call that was booked through local service ads with the review request through that dashboard are being prioritized, right? So, if you're behind the ball on this, you need somebody that's listening to the call, recognizing that a job was booked, and then pushing that review request through the system. Somebody needs to be paying attention to that and following up on it, because all other things being equal, Google wants to serve the best result, right? Which company actually showed up, did the job, and provided a great service through our Google Guaranteed program. The reviews is a big part of that. The other thing that's really important is your responsiveness to customer inquiries and requests. So Google's AI is running in the background, right? When someone types in Dallas plumber and your listing comes up and they click that listing and then they dial your tracking number, the AI is listening to see, was the call answered or not answered? And they're waiting for you to close the loop and say, did the job get booked or did it not get booked? Most home service companies don't recognize how important this is, that you provide the feedback loop back to Google to let them know like how these calls are turning out. But your responsiveness, if you're not answering 95 to 100% of the calls that come in on your local service ads, that's going to impact your ability to remain ranked in the 3-pack. So the AI sees, was it answered by a real person and did a conversation ensue or not, right? And if it's too often showing that you didn't answer the call, even if you've got the 20 grand allocated, you're going to start to come out. So it's super important that you're actually answering the calls. Obviously, your ranking is impacted by what you said is your office hours. So in the dashboard, you're able to say, we work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and we're closed on Saturday and Sunday. If that's how you have it structured, then on Saturday and Sunday, you're not in that result at all, right? It's only going to be the companies that show that they're open. And, that I'll leave to your judgment whether it makes financial sense for you to answer those calls after hours and dispatch or try to serve those customers. I think what I found is, the customer searching after hours is usually the highest qualified. Like they've got an emergency situation. They're just trying to get the situation solved. So if you can show office hours as open and you can have someone take those calls live, you're going to get even more booked jobs. With that said, like obviously your office hours impact whether you're on or not. The other thing that's going to impact is if you're getting complaints, right? We say that this is the Google Guaranteed program, which means Google is guaranteeing that you're going to do a good job. If they're getting a lot of complaints from your customers saying, oh, they didn't show up, or oh, they were a bad company, or they're requesting a refund through the guarantee, whatever you do, like make sure that the customers that you get through Google Guaranteed are happy, right? So really focus on this because this will absolutely impact your ability to rank. So that's the main thing. I want to kind of walk you through this now. There's really 5 steps that you want to focus on to dial in and win with local service ads. The first thing is we want to dial in the service area, the profile, and the budget, right? I'm going to show you what this looks like, but there's certain things you can do to really optimize the listing. It's not super complex, but if you know what you're looking at and you know how to tweak the settings, you can really set this up to the nth degree. Like there's a good, better, best way to do it. And you might as well put your best foot forward. You might as well fill in all the cells. You might as well, really, really get this set up as well as possible. Number two is we have to mark the jobs as booked. Like this is one of the most important pieces of that feedback loop. Got a call, answered it, and then did you book that job? Somebody on your team needs to be listening to all these calls, needs to be rating the outcomes, and needs to be disputing the non-qualified leads. And whether that's somebody on your team or a service that we can provide for you, this is super important that we're dialing in the profile correctly and then we're marking the jobs as booked that do get booked. We got to deal with our disputes, right? When it's a lead in the in the wrong area, it's not the right kind of lead, we got to dispute those so we don't wind up wasting a lot of money. We need to drive verified reviews, right? And so if you're using some of the automatic tools that already exist, like Nearby Now or Review Buzz or one of these other platforms, that's great. But usually those are going to send an email or text message to their Google listing. And so it's really important when it comes to your local service ads in the Google dashboard, you can mark, okay, this call came in through local service ads and get a verified review. This is different. Like you need to actually send this through the platform, right? And so it's important that you focus on getting these verified reviews. And then we want to be targeting an 85% booking rate. And I found in some markets, this is super aggressive, but it's just a benchmark to shoot for. We want to answer, like almost 95%, right? We want to answer the calls. There's no excuse not to answer your leads, right? We need these calls are coming in, we got to answer it. And then we want to book as many of them as possible, right? We want to have a great answering service or a great CSR that knows how to book those calls, but we can go back to the back end and say that it was booked, because the higher your booking rate, the more reviews you get, the better you've optimized your profile. This is how you're going to win with local service ads. So just give me a 1 in the comments if you're tracking along with me and you're still with me. Kind of this is making sense. Amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So when we dial in our profile, right, there's a dashboard you can log into for local service ads that's got lots of different fields, lots of different cells. And usually what we think about is, all right, here's my company name, here's my phone number, here's my website address, budget, whatever. I'm going to put some budget towards it and my job types. And we just kind of leave it at that. But there's lots of very specific settings that we can get into within the profile. You want to set the budget. The budget that you set in local service ads could make or break the outcomes that you have. And what I'm going to say is, if local service ads is your lowest cost per lead, it's the top result that's coming up in the search results, I want to suggest that you really open up the budget as widely as you can, right? Put the local service ads budget first. Put a lot of money towards this. A lot of our clients wind up putting more money than they ever spend in the kitty so that they can make sure that the budget isn't an issue, right? As long as you've got capacity, put the money towards it, right? If you put a $20,000 budget, Google might only spend $10,000 of it. But if those leads are converting and they're selling and you're closing those jobs, you're going to get more and more, right? Assuming you've got the capacity to handle those types of jobs. You want to update the ad schedule. This is really important. It's kind of a strategic thing. Think about when you're open, when you're available to answer. A big mistake would be to say, I'm available 24/7 when you don't have someone to answer live on Saturday at 9 a.m. in the morning, right? So just think about when you're sure you can answer, knowing that the after hours calls, the after hours leads, usually there's less competitors, right? Because a lot of your clients don't work those after hours. And so they close their profile down. Less competition and highest urgency, right? Somebody calling in the middle of the night has a high urgent need. Somebody calling on Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon is probably a higher urgent need. And because you're one of the few that will answer and be available, you have a higher probability of getting the job. So really think about updating your ad schedule. Update your business bio. You've got the ability to describe your services. Really, this is an opportunity for a sales letter about who you are, why people choose you, what your unique selling proposition is, the services that you provide. Really think through that business bio, optimize it. Select the job types. And really look at all of the job types available. Look at the ones that you do and the ones that are pretty congruent to what you do. Think about, spend the time to really dial that in. Set up your service areas. You can show up in a wider area as long as you select the right service areas within the system. Now, proximity to the location is still a factor, But if you can go that 25 miles outside of where your office is, and you can kind of expand that service area as long as it makes sense that you can dispatch a guy, you can still be profitable with it. Makes a lot of sense to really dial that part of what you do in. You can also kind of laser target the areas that are higher affluence, right? The kind of client that has more money, that's willing to spend more, that is worth your energy. Spend some time thinking about how can we widen our service area and what do we want to focus some of our attention. Think about those office hours, which is similar to the to the ad schedule, and then add photos, right? You have the ability to add a lot of different photos to your Google local service business profile. It's funny how often I look and I pull up a local service ads listing, and it's just the blank slate, right? It's just like the company's name, their phone number, and what they do. You want to add photos, and what I'm going to suggest is add the personality-based photos. So this shouldn't just be like the smiling family stock photo. Be authentic here, just like you would on your website. Have a picture of the owner, have a picture of the technicians, have a picture of your trucks, have a picture of a happy technician at a home, have a picture of your technician at a home with the client, looking at the great job they just did. Like, use some authenticity. Authenticity sells, right? Personality sells. So infuse that into your profile. All right, so that's optimizing the profile, and that's something you want to do right out of the gates. You want to do it as well as you can, and you want to revisit on an ongoing basis. Add new photos, adjust the hours as it makes sense. Add new services if you're expanding and adding additional things. From there, we have to make sure that we mark the outcome of every job, right? In the platform, the calls are there. You can run a report. You can see, okay, here's all the calls that we got. You need to mark as booked. This is the hidden metric that most companies don't realize, is that Google's AI is looking to see whether you answered the call, and the system is waiting to find out what happened. The companies that feed Google the data that they want, which is we answered these calls, these are the ones that got booked, these are the customers that wrote us reviews, are going to win the day. They're going to be the prioritized listings over time. And so make sure that you or somebody on your team or an organization like ours is listening to every call, figuring out what happened, and pushing that data back to Google. Give me a one, because this is like one of the most important things. Give me a one in the comments if that makes sense and something that you'll commit to do something more with going forward. We're gonna be in the dashboard. We're gonna optimize it correctly. We're gonna mark the outcome of all of these calls. Fantastic. So Google's gonna rate your responsiveness. You have the ability to look at a report and see right within the dashboard what your responsiveness is and what your booking ratio is. So you want to mark them as booked or scheduled. You want to add the customer details because you can add additional information, the value of the job and things like that. Include their email address. And then you want to archive the non-converted opportunities. So let's just say you had 10 leads to come through local service ads and 2 of them get booked. You mark those as booked within the system. Now there's 8 maybe that didn't respond, or they just went radio silent on you. You don't want to let that sit in the dashboard as like just adding up. You can mark those as non-converted opportunities. You want to archive those. That way you keep your data clean. I don't know that that's a ranking factor, but I think that if you do that work, the more you give data to Google and you give them what they want, the cleaner your dashboard is, the better off you're gonna be. So we've talked about optimizing the profile. We've talked about marking the outcomes of our opportunities. Number 3 is we want to dispute the unqualified leads, right? It would be very easy to spend $5,000 and see 2,000 or 3,000 of that potentially, hopefully not, let's say $1,000 worth of that be, outside your service area, spam calls, bot calls, and that can really harm your return on investment. So you want to make sure that somebody on your team, again, is listening to the calls, saying, okay, that's outside the area, that's not what we do, and disputing those so that you don't wind up with that bleed of budget, that bleed of spend. So somebody needs to be really like disputing those unconverted opportunities. You're not going to be charged for disqualified leads, anything outside your area, not in the service you provide. Number 4 is we got to drive verified reviews, right? So, like I said, having reviews is important, but verified reviews right within the local service ads dashboard is super important. So your calls come in and you can run a report with the numbers of the people, and then you can click ask for review. And so you want to make sure that within the platform, within the native platform, somebody is pushing that review request and getting those reviews going through the system. I really believe the companies that answer the phones through the track system, mark the outcomes, and then request and get reviews from the customers and provide a complete feedback loop and are getting happy reviews on the other side are going to be positioned to win. Give me a win in the comments if that makes sense. Like, this is the formula to win. Optimize the profile, mark the outcomes, and then get reviews on the back end, not just Google reviews, but like verified reviews through the platform. Amazing. Lots of comments here saying win. I love that. So the number of reviews is a major factor. You got to provide great service, right? This is a, you know, the experience that you generate makes the difference, right? Answer the phone on time, send the guy out with a pre-call in advance, show up with the booties, maybe even put down the mat. You guys know what to do to create a world-class experience. But if you provide a great experience and you request a review, you're going to get reviews, and it's going to create the experience. And you got to leverage the dashboard. Again, I'm hammering this again and again, but I know we've all got tools that we love that are kind of maybe even automated into our system through Service Titan, where we close the job, review request, text message goes out. That is a little bit different than what I'm talking about here, right? If it came through the local service ads dashboard, we want to push it through the native platform so we can get those real reviews baked into the system. And so again, like within the dashboard, it looks like this. Hopefully you guys can see this. You know, you can see like kind of what your average reviews are. You can see how many phone calls you received and how many you actually asked for the review. Like go in and on a daily basis, like recency is important with this type of thing, right? If you wait a week and only once a week are requesting the review from that customer, and they're like, man, that was last week. I'm not even thinking about that anymore. Like it needs to be the job was done and the review, review request hits their inbox, right? So you want to be on top of this. You want to be something you're doing on a consistent basis to really generate the best results. You have to collect the data because if you can get the customer's email address, it's not like Google's going to magically send them a text message, right? You have to type in their customer email address, what the job was, what area what the service location was, bam, and push that request through the system. It is surprising to me how many home service companies are spending a lot of money on local service ads. They're answering the calls, and maybe in some cases they're booking them through, but they're not pushing the review request through the system. And really, this is one of the secret components to make sure you win long-term with local service ads. Now, from a KPI perspective, key performance indicator, I think all other things being equal, we got a great profile that's optimized. We got a great budget. We're putting, lots of money. We're putting $25,000 a month towards this. We got everything set up. We're booking the jobs. We're requesting the reviews. Your booking percentage rate is going to really drive home your outcomes. And you might think Google doesn't know, but reality is right within your dashboard, you can see how many leads you got charged for, how much was spent, and then how many jobs were booked. And Google has a booking rate that they're tracking, right? And if Google's main objective is to provide a great experience for the customer, knowing that when they searched, they found what they needed and they got the problem solved, and they know there's hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies vying for these leads, right? Putting big money towards showing up for these leads. Don't try and tell me that this booking rate isn't going to be important to Google, that they're not going to prioritize the companies that are higher in the completion of their jobs and in the completion of these opportunities. So just put a percentage in the comments if this makes sense. Like this is something you want to be monitoring. This is something you want to be managing towards, because if that booking percentage rate is zero, which a lot of cases when I look at these campaigns, they're zero because nobody's even going in and marking the outcomes. You have to mark the outcomes. And then you got to really make sure that your outcome is as high as possible, right? If your dispatcher isn't good at selling the book job right on the phone, that's going to harm your ability to move forward. So this is super important, really focusing on this metric, this booking rate. So we want to target an 85% booking rate. In order to do that, you need to understand the reporting, right? You need to understand how to get into the dashboard, how to look at that report, how to look at that report based on time frames, how effectively you convert calls will impact your overall ranking over time, and you're shooting for 85%. I see clients that are well below that, some that are kind of in that territory. This is just a benchmark that we like to shoot for because it helps give us something to measure. And I'm a big believer that what you measure improves, right? So make sure that this is something you're measuring and that you, somebody on your team or a company like ours is paying close attention to this for you on an ongoing basis. That's your booking percentage, right? And so this is the outcome that we want to focus on. We got our budget. We're getting as many leads as we can. We're answering the calls. We're not missing any of the answer rates. We're booking as many as we can. We're going in and marking those as booked in the system. And then we're requesting the verified reviews through the platform. So how do we increase the lead flow, right? Let's just say we've got, 10 grand a month going to local service ads. We've got everything set up, like it's all ready to roll. And we've claimed our profile. We've got the right listings. We've got everything dialed in, but we're not getting a lot of leads, right? Sometimes that happens, right? Because there's other players that are already pretty well entrenched, that already have a great booking rate, that are already kind of the go-to on local service ads in the major markets. So what can we do to increase the flow when we feel like we've tapped out, when we feel like we've gone as far as we can? Some things we want to do. Number one is open the budget, right? If you're at $2,000 a month, go to $5,000, right? Whether it spends or not, increase the budget. Again, you're not going to find a lower cost per lead with more highly qualified leads. So you want to maximize this part of the equation. The next thing would be to expand your service area, your job types, your ad schedule, your business hours, right? If you're not getting as many leads as you want and you're not booking as many jobs as you want, the next thing would be to look at each of these and see, could we expand the area? Would that make sense? Do we have someone we could dispatch in that particular market to go a little bit wider? Are there job types that we're not bidding on? Like maybe symptomatic job types. So sometimes we just want the installation. I don't want to deal with repair because we just want the install. So let's really go heavy on install for those customers who are looking to replace the system. But we all know that the repair is usually the thing that leads to the install, right? More times than not, they want to fix it. And then when you go out and look at it and say, hey, this thing's beyond repair, we need to replace it. So maybe if we're not prioritizing the job types that are systematic or symptomatic to the types of jobs we want, we would expand that job type. The ad schedule, right? If our ad schedule is set Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock until 4 p.m., because that's when we got the lady at the office or the guy at the office, maybe we should expand that, right? Knowing that most of the other home service companies are in that similar ad schedule, right? They're turning it off at night. They're turning it off on the weekends. If you can cover that, you could probably get more of these leads. You could book more jobs. You could generate more revenue. And then, the ad schedule and the business hours, really, really important. Give me one if this is helpful, if this is making sense, some different ways to expand the lead flow. Larissa says, yes, excellent. Okay. Close out every job, right? I've said this, I've harped on this. We want to close out every lead, right? We want to either mark it as booked, mark it as scheduled, or mark it as archived, right? We have to close out the loop on all of these jobs, and we have to request the review on every job, which means somebody on your team needs to be paying attention. Hey, what's your name? Hey, what's your email address? Once the job is booked, going back into the system, putting in that name, that email address, the job that was done, and then pushing out that review request through the platform. This is how we can really expand the lead flow. This is how we can generate more results. So we've talked about how to win with local service ads. We've talked about how it works. We've also talked about kind of how to expand your lead flow over time as you hit those thresholds. If this is something you'd like some help with, you can just type help in the comments. I'm excited to announce we do have a new service called Local Service Ads Management, which is the higher level part of this. Like in the past, we were just we'll set up the local service ads, help you kind of get the background checks done. But now we actually have a service dedicated to management where we'll manage this entire process for you. So just give me a one in the comments if you're okay with me kind of walking through what that looks like, what we charge for it, how that works, and how you can get involved if that's something you're interested in. One in the comments here, let me know. All right, cool. I got at least a couple ones, so I feel all right diving into this. Or give me one in the comments if you got value from this session. If there's at least one or two things that you could take away, you're like, okay, that was useful. That was something I can go back and implement in my business. Okay, I want to make sure I share the right screen. Hold on one second. I'll get this screen up. So if you're interested, you can go to plumrescue.net/LSA, and that takes you to a document where you can get all the details and where you could even sign up for this. But I want to walk you through this real quick and show you exactly what we can do, why it's a no-brainer, because we understand how to set the profile up, we understand how to optimize the campaign, we understand how to really drive the outcomes that are really most important, being that this is the number one place your customers are looking. Okay, so I should be sharing my dashboard now. So this is our local service ads management service. Again, this is something we've been doing for a long time, but something that's a new structured program. Because what we found working with hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies was most of them, were good at getting the leads and they were good at like dispatching and kind of taking care of it, but they didn't have someone that understood the importance on the back end of modifying and updating the profile. They didn't have somebody that understood the importance of closing the jobs and listening to every one of those calls and marking the outcomes. And so we're like, hey, what if we did this? We beta tested this concept. What if we put our team on the task where every day they were looking at all of the leads that came in, they were listening to those calls, they were marking the outcomes, they were pushing the review request, they were disputing the reviews. Would that generate a better result? Would that help them get higher ranked in the 3-pack? Would that generate a better ROI? And we found that it was a significant increase in the number of leads they were able to get through local service ads, the number of book jobs. So just give me a yes in the comments if you feel like that would be helpful to have somebody that understands it, that could just take the ball and run with it for you on the back end. Excellent, Mark, appreciate that. Excellent. All right, so I'll just walk you through. So what we're doing with the local service ads management, if you don't have the profile set up, we'll help you get the background checks and we'll help you push this through. If you do, we're going to get into the campaign and we're going to help structure it, right? We're going to look at all of the fields. We're going to look at all of the job types. We're going to look at every last thing we can do to optimize the profile to put the best foot forward for you. So we're really going to dial in the campaign and the account itself. And then we're going to do the ongoing management for you, right? This is something that, isn't just set and forget it, which unfortunately most of you guys don't have the time. You don't have the energy. You don't have the staff to really focus on this and work it on an ongoing basis. So we're going to make budget recommendations and budget bidding adjustments. We're going to put the call tracking in place. And more importantly, we're going to do the call analysis. So our team is going to be listening to those calls and marking the outcomes. They're going to be listening to the calls and marking the things that need to be disputed. We're going to manually rate each of the calls, and then we're going to keep the profile up to date, putting new photos, keeping the licensing up to date, making sure you don't fall out of the 3-pack at all whatsoever. We've got a great dashboard that we're going to provide you with in addition to the native local service ads dashboard in Google, which really makes it easy to see what's happening, right? It's able to see how much we spent, how many leads we were charged for, how many of those calls came in, what the outcomes were, and really give you that insight that you don't have right within the dashboard itself. So you kind of have that extra layer of reporting. And then we're going to do the review management, right? Which is not the automatic tools that you use, but actually saying, okay, this job was booked. Let's push the review request through the platform. Let's try and get as many book jobs as possible. Let's try and get as a high of a conversion rate as possible on our job management. So here's the way we're pricing this. We wanted to try and make this as no-brainer cost as possible. Literally, this is our team and our expertise coming in properly, setting up and optimizing the profile, managing on an ongoing basis, and then doing the grunt work, right? Doing the work day in and day out to listen to those calls, to rate the outcomes, to look at the dashboard and kind of give you feedback on where things are being missed. The base price is $549 per month for up to 75 leads tracked through local service ads, because this is a very labor-intensive process. If somebody's listening to these calls, there's time, there's cost, and there's communication that has to be done. And then it kind of tiers up from there as your volume goes up, right? Because of the time that's required to listen to the call and rate the outcomes. So again, if this can help you book one additional job per month from your local service ads, it practically pays for itself. And we're seeing hundreds of additional jobs booked because we're showing up more in local service ads. We're getting better results. We're really optimizing for the things that Google cares about, which is the profile itself, which is those reviews and that closing the loop on each of the jobs. So that's the opportunity. On today's webinar, what we're doing is we're waiving the setup fee. So clients, non-clients, if you want to have us do this for you, all you have to do is click on the link where it says, click here to sign up. It takes you to a simple registration page. Again, it's $597 per month. And then we'll look and monitor. Like if it turns out you're more like 300 leads per month, then the cost is higher, right? Because we got to have that extra horsepower, that extra manpower to get this done. So there's your call to action, right? Go ahead, go to plumberseo.net/LSA, get signed up for this. right? I mean, this to me, this is a no-brainer opportunity. We do this well. Like, this is what we know. We do this day in and day out. All you have to do is click the button, get yourself registered. The next thing that you're going to get on the back end, you're going to get to a page where you schedule your kickoff call. And we've got Daniela, our local service ads coordinator, that will meet with you one-to-one. That will kind of get all the details, get the login information, be clear on what you do, what you don't do, what your service hours are, and go in and update the profile, get it dialed in, and then get your dedicated manager that's going to be listening to all those calls and rating them for you in the back end. So again, if you take action while we're on today's webinar, we're going to waive the $500 setup fee, and it's just $549 per month. And you can just go to plumberseo.net/LSA, click the Get Started Now button, and it will take you to this page where you can enter your credit card details, and we will hit the ground running. Outstanding. Hopefully you guys are taking action here. You're pulling up that page, you're getting yourself registered. Again, tiered pricing, $549 is your management fee. As the volume increases, we charge more because we have more time. Obviously, you're also generating a lot more revenue and a lot more results. So the ROI for this is literally a no-brainer. Like, you're going to make a lot more than what you're spending on this on an ongoing basis. If you still have questions and you're like, you know what, this sounds great, but I have some questions. I'd like to talk more about how this works, how this integrates into our overall strategy. Maybe I've got another company that's doing my internet right now, and I need to make sure this isn't going to be a conflict. If you've got other questions about this before you feel comfortable getting started, you can call us at 866-610-4647, or you can go to plumberseo.net/schedule. Mike, great question. What's the fee for 2 locations? So if you've got 2 local service ads, it's the same fee plus an additional $150 per month, because we have to set up another dashboard. We've got to set up the other tracking mechanism. There's more cost for us, so that just helps us cover that cost. So great question. Hopefully that answers it. You can start with one location, just sign up for the one location, and we can modify to 2 or modify whatever we need based on volume. And again, if you're a client already and you have questions, you want to talk with your account manager about it, you can just get on a meeting with your account manager. Hey, I'd like to turn on local service ads management, and we can set up that order on the back end for you as well. So that's the scoop. Go to plumberseo.net/schedule if you have more questions about this. You want to get some more details about how it works, what's involved, or just go to plumberseo.net/LSA where you can sign up, and we can just say, hey, I'm ready to get started. Let's hit the ground running. Let's go ahead and run with this. And our team will roll up our sleeves, get to work, and kind of be your advocate, be your local service ads management team on the back end, helping you really generate great results. So that's all I have for today, right? This is part of the accelerated growth model. We want to help you drive leads. We want to help you maximize conversion. We want to help you optimize your results, right? So when it comes to driving leads, we've got setting up the website, making sure it's ranking organically, making sure it's coming up in all the places that your customers look. We have paid search, which is your Google Ads management, your local service ads optimization, and dialing that in, really generating as many leads as we can. We've also got your database, which a lot of people don't think about, is your existing database of past customers and past prospects is an amazing opportunity to drive leads, right? Most of us focus on the new opportunities. We don't focus on our existing customer base. One of the things we like to focus on is let's get your customer list. Let's make them an offer. Let's get in front of them. Let's get back out in the home, and let's generate revenue through that channel. So lots of different opportunities for driving leads. We want to maximize conversion, right? We want to make sure that as many of those people that get to the website, as many of those people that call in, convert into a booked job. And so, that's really making sure your website's built to convert, making sure your reputation is best in class, where somebody looks you up, they see lots of great reviews about you, and they're seeing it on Google, they're seeing it on Yelp, they're seeing it on Angie, they're seeing it all over the place. And so we've got some strategies in place to help really boost your reviews and your online reputation, because that really impacts your conversions. And then we want to dial in automation. Like, there's so much automation available now where after somebody inquires, we can send them a call, we can send them an SMS, we can follow up with them automatically and give them the opportunity to engage via 2-way text messaging. We can absolutely help you maximize your conversion. And then we want to optimize the results, right? As we're spending money in marketing, as we're thinking about the goals that we're driving for, first thing we want to think about is how much are we spending, right? How much are we spending? Usually we got a fixed budget. Let's call it $5,000, $10,000 a month. We're like, I want to keep growing, and this is my budget. But the reality is, as your company grows, you need to carve out more money to invest in local service ads, in Google ads, in marketing automation, in other things that are going to help you get more leads, get more sales. And so we start with what's the goal, and then how much revenue do we have to play with, and then how much is the spend? Usually we can spend more as long as there's an ROI. Let's keep spending more. From there, we want to optimize around the average cost per lead, right? We want to make sure we've got an average cost per lead that makes financial sense for the different types of jobs that we generate. We can spend a little bit more for a replacement job than maybe for a repair job, right? And so really optimizing that average cost per lead across the spectrum. And then the biggest thing is return on investment, right? As long as I can spend $1 and get $5 in return after expenses, that's what we want to optimize for. Obviously, we want to make the ROI better, but really a truly accelerated growth model comes down to these three key pillars, right? We got to drive leads. We got to make sure those leads convert into book jobs and revenue. And then we got to optimize the results and double down on the things that are having the biggest impact. And so today was really all around local service ads. But if you're interested in that accelerated growth model and you'd like to talk with us about how we can help and how we can help you dial in your overall online marketing strategy, you can go to plumberseo.net/schedule. If you're a client and you want to get with our team to really dial in this strategy and kind of take it to the nth degree, feel free. Let's schedule that in. Let's get it going. And if you're interested in moving forward with local service ads management, you can go to plumberseo.net/LSA. That's plumberseo.net/LSA. You'll get to the page with all the details. Click the button, get yourself registered. We'll schedule the kickoff call, and we will get to work on this ASAP. Dial in the profile, dial in the management on an ongoing basis, and really amplify your results with local service ads. So that's it for now. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Christian, are there any questions that I missed? Any questions? Go ahead and type a question in the comments if you have any specific questions. Let's see. Matt's saying, if there are physical locations with dedicated GBP profiles, their own distinct service areas, you can definitely get approved for 2 profiles. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so again, our charge for 2 profiles separate is your same management fee plus an additional $150 per month for that additional location. Stephanie, what CRM do you find works for your system? So in my mind, there's 2 types of CRMs. There's like your dispatch system, which would be ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, Field Edge, those types of platforms. And then usually you're going to want to have some type of marketing platform on the front end of that. So we have a system called Conversion Amp, which is built to manage your lead flow, right? The leads that come inbound, the leads that come from your outbound, the leads that you can nurture through email marketing automation and SMS marketing automation. And then you want to integrate that into ServiceTitan or House Call Pro or Field Edge. So once they became a customer, that's where you would dispatch the job, collect the revenue, manage that type of thing. I'm a fan of all 3 of those. Obviously, ServiceTitan is the 100-pound gorilla that seems to be just getting better every single day. Let's see. Okay. What's up, Hugh? Thanks for being here. Excellent. I'm not seeing any other questions. So I will just say thank you so much for your time today. I hope you got value. I hope you got some new insights on how you can win with local service ads. If you have any questions, feel free to schedule in with us by going to plumberseo.net/schedule. And if you're ready to get started with local service ads management, go to plumberseo.net/LSA. That's it for now. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing afternoon, and we'll talk again soon.